Humanity's last stand just got absolutely wrecked. The battlefield looks like a crater convention, and our sole survivor Sikken is bleeding out against a broken pillar like some tragic action movie extra. He's an SSS-ranked lightning assassin who's been demolishing demons for years, but right now, he's about to become a Demon King's Juicebox special. Lanu's been laughing for 7 years straight while his monster army turned Earth into their personal playground because apparently demons have zero chill. Now he's draining Sikken's life essence like it's a smoothie, and the pain is absolutely next level unbearable. But instead of screaming, our boy's brain decides to run a trauma highlight reel: his little sister's face, his comrades falling, his master getting cut down. All gone because of this smug demon jerk with the world's most punchable face. Blood dripping from his teeth like some kind of gothic vampire wannabe, Sikken lets pure rage take over. Lightning explodes from his veins like he's a human power plant having a meltdown. He's taking this arrogant Demon King down with his final move, Terminus Light, his SSS-rank nuclear option that makes fireworks look like child's play. The blinding pillar locks Lanu down, and the Demon King starts shrieking like someone stole his favorite toy right before nap time. But there's always a catch because the universe loves irony. This suicidal attack is dissolving Sikken's body into starlight like he's a bad special effect. His consciousness fades, flashing through memories of his sister, his master, his parents. His last thought? He wishes he'd been stronger so he wouldn't be sparkling to death. The Demon King disintegrates into ash, utterly confused that some inferior human just ended his whole career. Then snap. Sikken's eyes burst open like he just had the world's worst nightmare. He's on a clean cot in a quiet, sunlit room. No blood, no battlefield, just peace and quiet, which is honestly more terrifying. Sitting up, he realizes his body is completely intact, which is weird because he definitely remembers being stardust 5 seconds ago. Peering outside, he sees a campus medical center filled with laughing students who have no clue humanity just got wiped out. Must be nice to be blissfully ignorant while the world almost ended. He stares into a bathroom mirror, and the truth hits him like a wrecking ball. He's traveled 10 years back to his college days, May 16th, 2157. That means he's got exactly 3 years before the first Demon King, Wrath, tears open the gates of hell and starts the apocalypse party nobody asked for. In his original timeline, that nightmare started in 2016 and systematically murdered everyone he loved. This time, he's hunting Wrath down and slamming those hellish gates shut before the party even starts because he's not doing that trauma replay again. A weird buzzing fills his ears like a mosquito from hell. A glowing system notification declares the power of gluttony fusion is complete, which sounds suspiciously like a bad diet plan. He stares at his hands, wondering why a screen is hovering in his face like some kind of video game menu. Then zap, a holographic status window materializes. Level 1. All stats balanced at 100 points. Pretty basic stuff, honestly. But then the screen glitches violently, revealing a hidden archive. The legendary Lightning Assassin class from his past life, because apparently the universe decided he needed a power upgrade. He initiates a class change to test it, wondering if he actually inherited his old abilities. Before he can, his roommate Ma Long bursts through the door like a tornado in glasses, screaming about whether he's okay. This frantic kid got murdered on day 3 of the demon invasion, so seeing him alive and loud makes everything feel real. Ma Long reminds him the ranking test is tomorrow because apparently the world ending doesn't excuse you from exams. They head outside to a peaceful campus afternoon. Students practicing magic, playing soccer, jogging like the world isn't ending in 3 years. Sitchin quietly comments on how long it's been since he saw this many living people, which makes Ma Long think he's finally lost his mind. His brain is already plotting because that's what survivors do. The major guilds control all the dungeons, locking independent hunters out of the ranking system like some kind of power monopoly. Most students never escape E-rank, which is basically the participation trophy of the hunter world. But Sikken's got a system now, and he's determined to rank up faster than a caffeinated squirrel. Then, thwack, a stray basketball smacks Ma Long in the face with perfect comedic timing. He crashes to the concrete, glasses shattered, dignity completely destroyed. Standing nearby, a gang of smug campus bullies led by the same muscular jerk who beat them up yesterday because some people just can't let go of the past. The leader, Gong Cheng, demands they fetch him drinks like he's some kind of royalty. Ma Long starts bowing and apologizing like a broken puppet, which is honestly embarrassing to watch. But Sikken steps in, calmly telling his roommate they've got nothing to apologize for because bullies don't deserve free beverages. The bully laughs at this sudden confidence boost, completely unaware that he just unlocked Sikken's darkest memories like a trauma subscription box. Flashback. This same jerk held our boy's head underwater in a sink while his goons laughed. because apparently drowning people is fun when you're a terrible human being. Malong cried helplessly on the floor, and it was not a good look for anyone involved. Snapping back to the present like he just woke up from a bad dream, Sikin stands tall and ready. The jerk steps forward, revealing he's a low-tier E-rank flower warrior whose only claim to fame is having a powerful student council president for a brother, because nepotism runs deep in this academy. The crowd gathers like they're watching a reality show, eager to witness the beatdown. Gongcheng lets his toxic green energy flare up, cracking his knuckles like he's in a bad martial arts movie. But Sichin just glares back with cold red eyes that say, "I've killed demons, you're nothing." The bully throws a massive punch, only for Sichin to casually block it with one hand like he's swatting a fly. The crowd gasps as Gongcheng stumbles back, clutching his bruised hand in agony because his ego just took a hit too. "Unawakened weakling?" the bully screams, completely missing the irony. Sichin smirks because he's about to ruin this guy's whole day. Time to class change. The system registers him as a level 1 lightning assassin, and yellow electricity crackles across his body like he's about to drop the hottest mixtape. Malong screams in absolute shock because his roommate just turned into a human battery. Gongcheng activates his immortal demon armor for a final strike because apparently he didn't learn his lesson the first time. Sickin ducks and unleashes a lightning-fast counterpunch that sends the massive bully flying into the concrete bleachers like a rejected football. The remaining bullies run for their lives because they're not stupid, just cowardly. Malong stands frozen, staring at his roommate like he's a completely different person who got swapped in overnight. Sichin calmly pulls up his status window, realizing he can tap into his past life class whenever he wants, which is convenient. Despite knocking Gongcheng out cold, his stats haven't budged a single point, which is annoying. He wonders if he needs to push further, which sends Malong into a panic because apparently his roommate has zero chill about experience points. Sichin pins the bully by the throat with crackling electricity, testing if harvesting XP works the same brutal way. Shishin ignores the bully's plea, keeping his hand tight on the jerk's throat. With electricity popping and crackling all around his fist, he wonders if this timeline is like a video game. Can he just keep harvesting this bully for experience points? He's about to punch the jerk one more time to test his theory when a smooth, mocking female voice cuts in from right behind him. Turns out it's Ling Yu, the super hot student council vice president, stepping in to mediate. She casually tells him that Gongcheng, the bully, has totally learned his lesson. Sichin lets go, and Gongcheng just slumps onto the concrete like a sack of garbage, coughing and wheezing. Sichin's internal monologue is just one big, "Why does the student council keep defending this loser?" Even though he knows sometimes you just gotta make a point. Around them, students are absolutely losing it, whispering about Shuchen's monster strength. Sichin just shrugs and walks away. A frantic Malong scrambles to catch up, yelling, "Bro, wait for me." Ling Yu, meanwhile, just stands there, watching them go with a highly intrigued, definitely knows something you don't smirk. Later that evening, in the men's dorm, it's utter chaos. Ma Long is losing his mind trying to explain the fight, aggressively shadowboxing while their skeptical roommates watch with pure amusement. Finally, their cynical roommate, Jiang Zuo, who is also an E-rank flame mage, so you know he's got issues, just dryly asks, "Where's Suchin anyway?" Sweat dripping, Ma Long nervously squeaks that Suchin just went for a run, which earns him a sharp jab to the skull from their highly skeptical roommate. Another roommate, Zhang Yu, is quietly typing, convinced Ma Long has finally lost it. The loudmouth roommate gestures wildly, reminding everyone they share a room because their grades suck. In an attempt at dominance, he proudly summons a tiny spark to prove he's a combat class flame mage, completely dismissing Sushin's awakening. He flexes with absolute unearned confidence, declaring that tomorrow's final evaluation will expose our hero's lies once and for all. Meanwhile, back at the academy, a massive swirling vortex of fire crackles inside the exclusive E-rank training den. A blood-splattered Gong Ting, the student council president, steps out of the flames, casually ending his training session while the guards bow in respect to his terrifying power. Waiting in the shadows is Gongqing, face covered in bandages. He begs his brother to avenge him, claiming the humiliation is keeping him awake. His powerful older brother calmly listens before coldly promising to personally handle this sudden upstart. Later, over a lavish dining table, a sharp knife slices through a thick, juicy steak. The student council vice president, Ling Yu, asks Gongting how he plans to handle the situation, wondering if the mysterious new lightning user is really as strong as his brother claims. She reminds him that he's already recruited every single D-rank student in the academy, mainly because ordinary students lack the access to dungeons required to grow stronger. Meanwhile, Sukin is out in the pouring rain, running. And we're not talking about a jog. He's carrying a brutal 100-kilogram load and running for 20 kilometers. He knows a solid physical foundation is the only way to withstand his class's true power, though he secretly knows this grueling workout is still not even close to being enough. He flashes back to the year 2160 when the terrifying Demon King Wrath slaughtered humanity. He recalls the agonizing moment his little sister died in his arms during that apocalyptic invasion as the monstrous demon threw open the gates of hell. He grits his teeth through the storm, focused on his one goal, personally hunting down and slaying the Demon King Wrath before history repeats itself. He has exactly 3 years to outpace the monster's growth until a sudden electronic buzz from his pocket cuts through his deep thoughts. He freezes as the screen displays Seon, his sister. Trembling in the pouring rain, he pops in an earbud to answer the unexpected call. Her energetic voice immediately blares through the line, demanding to know why he called so much. She excitedly rambles about winning a competition to finally pay off their overdue rent. Hearing her voice, he stands in the storm, completely silent. She asks about the rain. He squeezes his eyes shut and manages to whisper, "Everything is completely fine." Tears of pure relief mix with the rain as he confesses how much he missed her. His sister is utterly confused since they literally spoke 2 days ago. He hangs up, a wave of absolute determination washing over him as his second chance becomes real. He sprints back onto the track to push his body past its absolute limits. Driven by the desire to protect everything he holds dear in this second life, Sicken sneaks back into his quiet dorm room 8 hours later. He washes away the sweat under a hot shower, appreciating his younger, highly adaptable body. Then he focuses on the big problem. Leveling up requires entering a demon den, and the elite guilds monopolize all of them. Ordinary students have zero chance. He closes his eyes and ponders the mysterious power of gluttony he possesses until a sudden Crimson System notification begins initializing in the darkness of his mind. It completes its load and officially initiates the legendary Glutton system with a blinding flash, pulling Sicken's consciousness deep into a strange, endless void. The real trial begins. He falls through a dark crimson-tinted void before splashing onto a solid surface. He looks up and finds a massive, jagged tower looming over a blood-red sea. Sishin, standing there in his sleepwear, is completely bewildered, staring up at the terrifying, bone-like structure that stretches into the dark sky. Suddenly, low growls echo through the mist. Several skeletal wolf-like E-rank gravehounds emerge. A system notification flashes, and yellow lightning crackles around his hand, confirming a class change. He's now officially a level 1 lightning assassin, complete with his past life stats and skills. The pack of beasts lunges. With a blinding flash of speed, Sicken dashes forward and cleanly slices a beast in half, instantly killing it and earning himself 3 gravehound fangs as his first loot drops. He slices through the remaining E-rank beasts with absolute ease, watching the experience points roll in as he realizes this hyper-realistic space is no dream. This is confirmed when a massive golden level up notification flashes before his eyes, showing a 5-point increase across all core level 2 stats. He's thrilled to have found a private dungeon, but the celebration is cut short when an E-rank Gravehound King boss suddenly spawns. Sishin instantly shreds the massive beast with a flurry of lightning strikes, securing experience and a rare Gravehound crystal loot drop pushing him straight to level 3. Then, a strange crimson prompt appears, urging him to devour the fallen boss. His hand begins to glow with a strange, intense crimson light. He realizes this is the true, terrifying nature of his unique gluttony ability. A massive dark vortex swirls to absorb the monster's residual energy. As the wild energy settles back into his body, a holographic card materializes, confirming that the devouring process is complete. He can literally steal his slain enemy's powers and turn them into classes. He looks down at his glowing hand, realizing how broken this system is. The energy belonged to none other than Manhua, the legendary demon king who brought humanity to the brink of extinction. Now, the ultimate cheat code of the apocalypse is his. While other humans are locked into one combat class, Sicken is currently dual-wielding Lightning Assassin and the rare Cloud Warrior class. Devouring more monsters could grant an infinite arsenal. He wonders why he was chosen. His thoughts are shattered by a sudden, violent tremor. Sweating profusely, he buckles under a suffocating wave of unadulterated pressure. A towering hooded entity emerges from the bone structure, chillingly calling out Sicken's actual name. Before he can react, a massive shockwave blasts him backward. He realizes his current D-rank strength is nothing compared to his peak past life power, especially since this dual blade wielding monster is a literal S-rank boss. Dodging a flurry of lethal slashes, he realizes the boss is bizarrely holding back, until a brutal purple energy strike sends him flying. Sishin realizes the boss is trying to force him into submission. The boss offers him a choice: stay and guard the Tower of Darkness by his side. Sicken immediately rejects it, refusing to spend an eternity trapped. A sudden blinding purple slash tears through his chest, sending blood everywhere. The boss coldly warns that patience has limits, revealing Sicken as simply the first to ever reach this place. Strange purple energy begins rising from the defeated monsters as the boss unleashes a massive wave of power. Floating above, the S-rank boss demands submission. Sikken simply glares back, yellow lightning crackling around his face. He chooses to charge, roaring in determination. The boss laughs, unleashing a massive barrage of dark rocks, which Sikken narrowly dodges. He realizes he has figured out the monster's attack pattern, a tiny 0.4-second windup right before the boss swings. This gives him a window to read the trajectory and dodge a lethal purple energy slash, preparing to exploit the boss's tiny 0.2-second recovery window. He eyes the moment of vulnerability, unleashing his Electroblade skill directly at the monster's chest, hoping for a paralysis effect to buy him seconds to escape. He activates his Godspeed skill, boosting his speed tenfold as he runs toward a distant white light that seems to be the only exit. He reaches out for the portal, only for the light to vanish into thin air. He's stranded. The boss reappears behind him, revealing the exit was a cruel illusion. Crackling with dark energy, the boss expresses genuine amusement at Sichen's clever tactics. Sichen listens as the boss praises his calm mind, only for the monster to reveal its true identity as the legendary S-rank Abyssal Fiend. Sichen recognizes that exact monstrous form from his apocalyptic battle against Demon King Lanua, a terrifying entity that possessed the exact same broken ability to steal and switch classes, effortlessly shifting into a colossal ice dragon, a blazing fire demon, and a blinding golden lightning deity. Sichen realizes the terrifying truth. This towering armored silhouette is Demon King Lanua, meaning Lanua must have devoured the Abyssal Fiend in his past life, leading to the mind-blowing realization that this entire dark dimension exists inside his own body. The towering boss smiles, praising Sichen's sharp mind and declaring him worthy. The boss summons a glowing SS-rank Time Rift key, explaining that the most powerful demons devoured by Lanua are sealed inside the tower. He urges Sichen to conquer the tower, devour those ancient monsters, and claim their strength. When Sichen questions why this terrifying boss is helping him, the boss reveals, even demons have standards. He waits for revenge after other demon kings slaughtered his entire clan, calling Sichen the only hope to succeed. The monster suddenly points to the towering structure, claiming all answers lie inside, before dissolving into swirling energy, urging Sichen to inherit his S-rank powers. Sichen is utterly stunned by the free upgrade. The boss's face burns away, commanding him to open the gates and devour everything. He warns that the ancient monsters sealed inside will show absolutely zero mercy. Sichen steals his resolve as the spirit urges him to conquer them all. As the Abyssal Fiend's physical form completely dissolves into a brilliant cascade of starlight, his final words echo, "Shichen, you are worthy." This triggered the gluttony system to instantly begin devouring the massive swirling vortex of purple energy. A massive level-up notification flashed as Sichen officially reached level 10. Staring ahead with absolute determination, he vowed to carry on the fallen warrior's legacy, while a holographic card materialized to confirm he had successfully acquired the Abyssal Fiend class. Suddenly, a loud, obnoxious voice echoing through the darkness completely shattered his focus. Sichen snapped his eyes open as he sat up in a bunk bed, realizing he was somehow back in his academy dorm room while his roommates scrambled to get dressed. Looking down at his chest, he found his lethal wounds completely healed. Utterly bewildered, he stared at his glowing system screen. All his hard-earned loot was actually real. He marveled at his incredible level 10 stats while wondering how he ranked among other hunters until his smug roommate Ma Long suddenly barged over to his bunk bed with a grin. Teasing Sichen about some rumors while warning him not to steal his top dog status, Ma Long leaned in close with a wild look to announce that the rank assessments were finally starting. This only made Sichen stare back calmly, completely unfazed by the sudden challenge, munching loudly on a piece of bread. As they headed out of the dorms, Ma Long began bragging to the group about being a superior mid-tier E-rank hunter, explaining the massive power gap between tiers while claiming he could easily take them all on. Sichen silently walked behind him, letting the loudmouth hype himself up for the upcoming test. Walking beside him, Ma Long's nerdy friend eagerly urged Sichen to aim for a D rank, which only made Sichen smirk internally at how hilariously low their expectations actually were. As they finally arrived at the bustling academy courtyard filled with students whispering in groups, they looked up to see a massive digital screen announcing the official ranking assessment ceremony. Suddenly, a group of rowdy students came shoving their way out of the nearby restroom, revealing themselves as the notorious, arrogant lackeys who served the elite bully Gong Cheng. Ma Long's nerdy roommate instantly panicked, warning the group to steer clear of these dangerous troublemakers. But Sichen simply turned his head, locking eyes with the bullies with absolute indifference. The thug's heart skipped a beat as paralyzing terror instantly gripped them. The terrified lackey immediately bowed down in deep respect to Sitchin. Staring in absolute shock, Ma Long wondered why those terrifying thugs were bowing to their boy. While Sitchin calmly walked away, leaving the trembling bullies frozen in their deep bow, a loud, obnoxious voice suddenly cut through the courtyard's tense silence. It revealed a smug student council officer named Chang Di who was looking for trouble. Mockingly reminding everyone that the guy Seekin beat up was the president's younger brother, the other students instantly recognized this dangerous new challenger, whispering that Chang Di was a powerful D-rank hunter who acted as the president's lapdog. As the smug officer leaned in close, claiming he could smell a true powerhouse, he insulted Sitchin by saying he smelled like a complete loser outcast. Sitchin calmly looked down and dryly asked if he was a dog. Chang Di flew into a complete rage, screaming in fury at Sitchin's casual insult. But a cold, commanding voice suddenly cut in, ordering the angry officer to stand down. It revealed the handsome student council president, Gong Ting, who calmly stepped into the light, declaring that his younger brother, Gong Cheng, was entirely at fault for the previous fight. He stared down at the scene with an unreadable expression that hid his true thoughts, while Sitchin merely glared back with his piercing red eyes, completely unfazed by his presence. Suddenly, an announcer's voice echoed across the courtyard, declaring that the ranking assessments were starting. Gong Ting walked away while dismissing Sitchin as a complete non-threat. The crowd gathered around the glowing assessment portal. While high above in a lavish office, two influential figures discussed who might catch their eye today. Up in her office, a mysterious blonde woman sipped her tea with an intrigued smile. While down in the courtyard, the announcer called up the next student, Xiang Zuo, who stepped forward with a nervous grin, determined to prove his actual strength. He walked straight through the glowing blue portal to begin his official test, entering a specially designed isolated monster dungeon where the individual assessments took place. A pulsing mechanical magical core hung from the ceiling to absorb raw energy. The challenger had to unleash their absolute maximum power directly at the device, which caused the core to glow intensely as it processed the massive impact, transmitting the precise energy readings through heavy cables to the external equipment, until the digital screen outside finally flashed to reveal Xiang Zuo's official E-rank. While the evaluators recorded the initial E-rank result, the crowd waited for the real kicker. As Ma Long eagerly hyped up the crowd for the machine's most anticipated feature, a specialized system designed to calculate an awakener's absolute maximum potential in the future, which instantly flagged high-potential candidates to receive some highly lucrative government attention. Xiang Zuo was utterly depressed as his final C-rank potential confirmed he wouldn't get any special treatment. His classmates tried to comfort him by pointing out their own inevitable failures, with Ma Long cheerfully celebrating the fact that they were all equally mediocre, E-rank underachievers. Suddenly, the digital screen flashed a shocking result that sent the entire crowd into absolute hysterics, revealing the very first D-rank promotion of the day as a female student celebrated her massive win, before another smug high achiever strutted out of the portal, boasting an incredible A-rank potential. While the average student slumped in defeat over the rising number of D-ranked promotions, the Academy evaluators marveled at this year's unprecedented crop of high-tier talent until the announcer's voice suddenly boomed across the courtyard to call up the next candidate. It revealed the student council president, Gong Ting, who stepped forward with effortless grace, sending a massive wave of excitement through the crowd as they whispered about his elite background. While Sitchin watched silently from the sidelines, completely unamazed by the president's grand reputation, the spectators eagerly debated whether Gong Ting would shatter the school's historical records today. Inside the chamber, the mechanical magical core pulsed with an eerie rhythmic heartbeat, waiting for the young master as he approached the device with absolute confidence. Silently resolving to hold back his true power until the final graduation battle examination, Gong Ting was determined to secure his spot at the absolute top of the academy. He unleashed his energies as the assessment screen began processing his power. The head evaluator was completely stunned as he recognized the rare color of the reading, which suddenly flashed to reveal a high-tier D rank with an unbelievable S rank potential. This sent the entire crowd of students into absolute hysterics over the mind-blowing result, as the president's loyal fanboys started screaming his name in pure, unadulterated adoration. While his classmates lost their minds over witnessing school history, Sitchin remained completely unfazed. The ecstatic evaluators immediately prepared a direct report for the higher-ups, explaining that an S-rank potential candidate was guaranteed to receive elite government protection as the smug young master Gong Ting basked in his glory, knowing he had made national headlines. High above the courtyard, two influential figures looked out the window at the massive crowd as Headmaster Yuan Long smugly assumed the mysterious blonde woman had only come to watch Gong Ting, but she quickly shut down his assumption, revealing she had a completely different target in mind. Looking highly amused, she hinted that Gong Ting was not the most interesting student here. While down below, the announcer's voice boomed across the courtyard to call up the next candidate, prompting Sikin to step forward with absolute calm as his name echoed through the crowd, only for an arrogant bully to immediately block his path, mockingly calling Sikin a total loser and laughing hysterically while warning that their entire dorm would become the laughingstock of the school, pointing out that a group of low-tier E-rank underachievers would only humiliate themselves in the exams. This prompted Ma Long's nerdy friend to angrily shout back, declaring, "Sichin will make them eat their words." As Sikin's name flashed on the massive digital display above the portal, the surrounding crowd muttered in disbelief, wondering if he could actually pull off a decent score. While Sichin walked down the dark cable-strewn corridor toward the glowing mechanical core, which blinked open like a giant pulsing mechanical eye to analyze his incoming presence, he looked ahead with glowing red eyes, preparing to unleash his newly acquired power. Knowing that securing a high-ranking guild invitation was the only real path to a stable future and the ultimate stage to prove his worth was the upcoming graduation combat examination, where students must form 10-member teams of their own choosing to survive the trials, because the winning squad got directly recruited into the nation's most prestigious Imperial Guild. Sikin understood these ranking assessments were actually serving a far more critical purpose than simple evaluation. A loudmouth student excitedly introduced a newly minted D-rank recruit to his elite squad, boasting that their 10-man team was officially stacked with the Academy's absolute best fighters. This left the smug president surrounded by cheering sycophants who already crowned him the MVP, while the rejected low-tier students were left to rot in their own misery. Meanwhile, Sikin's nerdy classmate anxiously adjusted his glasses, sweating over the agonizing delay as the massive digital display remained completely blank under Sikin's name. The arrogant crowd laughed him off as a total unregistered zero. Even the president's loudmouth lackey dismissed the remaining testers as complete trash, suggesting karaoke instead, which Gongting calmly accepted, turning his back on the portal with absolute indifference. Until the screen suddenly glitched, flashing a shocking high-tier D rank that froze everyone in their tracks. The surrounding crowd stood frozen in absolute disbelief, their jaws dropping at the sudden development, while Ma Long immediately lost his mind with excitement, rubbing the victory directly in everyone's faces. This left the smug student council president completely stunned as his arrogant lackey choked on their words. Meanwhile, the overloaded magical core inside the chamber suddenly glitched, demanding a complete retest due to an abnormality. But Sikin calmly analyzed his base level, realizing his untransformed state naturally matched a high-tier D rank. Deciding to test his limits, he initiated a class change as blue energy surged through his hand, transforming into the fearsome Gravehound King before choosing to test out his absolute weakest class next. This instantly caused the external digital display to flicker wildly, rewriting his previous score in real time and flashing a brand new mid-tier C rank that completely shattered the entire Academy's expectations. This unexpected upgrade sent the spectators into absolute hysterics as they screamed in pure, unadulterated shock. The sudden C-rank result left the president's lackey screaming in complete denial while the Academy's veteran evaluators sweated profusely over what they assumed was a system error. As the overloaded magical core inside the chamber frantically demanded a complete retest, Sakin decided to step things up. Initiating a class change to his terrifying abyssal fiend form to test his true limits immediately sent the mechanical core's single eye into a state of absolute panic, triggering a massive swirling vortex of dark energy that rumbled violently through the sky. This sudden atmospheric pressure left the arrogant student council members trembling in sheer terror, while Ma Long and his roommates watched in awe, realizing their dorm had produced an absolute monster as the external digital display glitched violently, struggling to process his true godlike potential. The digital screen glitched wildly as a massive yellow letter S began to materialize, leaving the veteran evaluators completely bug-eyed as they screamed about another potential S rank. This instantly wiped the smug, self-satisfied smirk right off of Gongting's face. Suddenly, a bright red warning flashed across the screen as the system began to struggle, screaming that a critical system error had occurred while the display flickered out of control, because Sikin's raw power had officially exceeded the machine's maximum calculation limits. This mind-blowing revelation left the spectators screaming in absolute jaw-dropping terror right before the overloaded testing chamber violently exploded in a massive shower of sparks. The panicked evaluators sprinted toward the smoke to rescue the student inside, only to find Sikin standing perfectly fine amidst the wreckage of their expensive machine. The lead evaluator stared in absolute shock as he inspected the smoking testing chamber, realizing with horror that the Academy's highly expensive magical core was completely dead. The panicked staff assumed the machine had simply overheated from a long day of testing, while Sikin walked away secretly pleased that his overwhelming power had ruptured the core because his power of gluttony had successfully devoured the A-rank device's unique sensory abilities. He calmly exited the ruined portal while the crowd continued to murmur in confusion. He immediately activated his newly acquired delicate magical core skill to scan the area, instantly projecting the hidden ranks of every single student standing in the courtyard. This prompted him to narrow his glowing eyes as he focused on his main rival, discovering that the smug student council president Gong Ting was actually hiding a mid-tier C rank. Holding the shattered remains of the magical core, the panicked evaluators officially suspended today's testing, dismissing the remaining students while announcing that Seekon's corrupted data would be reported to superiors. This only made Ma Long and his roommates celebrate Seekon as an absolute genius. But the student council lackey immediately stepped in, mockingly claiming the machine had simply glitched. Aggressively blaming Seekon for ruining the schedule and demanding compensation for wasting their time, this prompted Seekon to silently charge up his dark energy, seriously considering deleting this loudmouth, until Gong Ting suddenly intervened, telling his lackey to show some respect to their teammate. This left the arrogant bully completely dumbfounded by the sudden, unexpected defense of a supposed loser. As the smug president extended a hand, inviting Seekon to join his elite graduation team, Seekon stared coldly at the offered hand, weighing his options with absolute calm. The surrounding crowd watched in absolute shock as Gong Ting extended his hand to Seekon. This left the arrogant student council lackey sweating bullets over the thought of losing his spot, since getting on this elite team was a guaranteed ticket to the top of the academy. But the young master's personal invitation left the bully with no choice but to comply, forcing him to swallow his pride and fake a smile while welcoming Seekon to the squad, only for Seekon to instantly slap his hand away with a cold rejection. This left both the arrogant lackey and the student council president completely frozen in shock as the loudmouth bully screamed in disbelief, while Seekon calmly walked away, warning them with glowing red eyes to never bother him again. This left the humiliated lackey spitting literal fire. While Seekon casually strolled back to his dorm, the surrounding crowd of students immediately erupted into absolute chaos over the shocking news, whispering that Seekon must be aiming for the academy's absolute top spot. While Ma Long and his roommates laughed hysterically at the student council's public humiliation as they watched Seekon walk away, the smug president remained surprisingly calm about the rejection. This prompted Headmaster Yuanlong to sigh in disappointment over the missed Dream Team opportunity. But the mysterious blonde woman simply smiled, finding the sudden drama incredibly entertaining and noting that publicly rejecting the wealthy young master was basically a direct declaration of war. Meanwhile, the president's loyal followers nervously reminded themselves that their leader was no pushover. As the humiliated lackey continued to rage, insisting the C-rank result was just a system error, Gong Ting narrowed his eyes and silently swore to crush anyone who threatened his top spot. Desperate to salvage his pride, the humiliated lackey suggested jumping Seekon to teach him a lesson. But Gong Ting immediately shot him down, asking if he looked like a petty loser before walking away in a sour mood. This left his squad to go party without him, while warning his lackey that whatever stupid stunt he pulled had absolutely nothing to do with him. The warning went completely over the lackey's head as he watched his boss walk away. A sinister, unhinged grin spread across his face as he took that warning as a green light, and about 10 minutes later, he meets up with a shady informant on the school stairwell, who eagerly reports that Cheech Chen has already left the campus to head rear home, encouraging the ecstatic bully to crush a soda can under his foot in pure excitement, realizing that an off-campus target remains the perfect opportunity to strike without any witnesses. Walking down the street with his earbuds in, Seekon reflects on his ultimate goal, recalling how a catastrophic event totally reshaped the world during his previous existence, when a top-tier guild raided an uncharted dungeon merely to trigger an absolute nightmare, unleashing a terrifying godlike entity known merely as Wrath upon the unsuspecting world, which effortlessly wiped out the entire raid team before descending to terrorize mankind. To prevent this catastrophe, our protagonist devises a plan to locate the dungeon first. Realizing his ambitious strategy requires an absolute mountain of cold, hard cash, encouraging him to visit the Myathil Monster Exchange, a future powerhouse of resource trading, where hunters buy elite gear and sell valuable monster parts for quick, massive profits before casually tossing a handful of sharp monster fangs onto the counter to cash in. This snobbish clerk stares in total disbelief at the glowing monster fang in his hand, demanding to understand how a mere pupil managed to acquire such rare materials until the pink-haired junior clerk recognizes them as E-rank Gravehound fangs, explaining their various crafting uses while the senior clerk dismissively tosses them aside, scoffing that his high-end VIP counter merely handles premium D-rank goods or higher. He silently laments his lack of high-end clients, worrying about his next promotion, deciding that dealing with low-tier pupils bringing in junk remains a waste of his duration before dumping the transaction onto his junior colleague and walking away in a huff. This polite pink-haired clerk hands over a sleek black envelope containing the cash, leaving Shuchen pleased with the $18,000, which readily covers his rent. Just as the transaction wraps up, Sukin summons a surge of dark energy from his palm, pulling out a massive jagged great sword that glows with an eerie purple aura, which instantly leaves the polite pink-haired clerk totally frozen in total awe, guessing that this terrifying weapon must remain at least a high-tier B rank or even A rank. Though, the snobbish senior clerk immediately scoffs, claiming a real A rank would cost millions. Suddenly, a sharp-dressed man with blue hair approaches, agreeing that the blade remains neither A nor B rank, encouraging the arrogant clerk to laugh in agreement, thinking his boss remains calling it garbage, merely for the manager to adjust his glasses and declare it a legendary S-rank artifact, dispatching the smug employee into a screaming fit of pure jaw-dropping panic, while the manager eagerly extends a hand to seal a massive deal with our protagonist. This blue-haired manager eagerly shakes hands with our protagonist, totally ignoring his stunned senior clerk, leading him straight to the luxurious VIP lounge, while Miss Lee carefully carries the massive greatsword, which brings a knowing, highly satisfied smirk to see Chen's face as his plan succeeds because he instantly recognizes this blue-haired manager as Ching Ji, the legendary Myithril guild leader. Once they settle in, a fresh cup of steaming hot tea remains poured, setting a calm mood before Chinga inquires how much our protagonist wants for the weapon, encouraging Sukin to casually demand a flat price of merely $1 million. This surprisingly low price tag leaves the seasoned guild leader totally frozen in total disbelief, pointing out that a legendary S-rank artifact could readily fetch tens of millions on the market, but our protagonist calmly explains he merely wants a temporary loan with the blade as collateral. This bizarre proposal leaves the seasoned guild leader totally dumbfounded, questioning if a normal pupil would ever think of this, realizing that our protagonist possesses totally no intention of parting with his legendary weapon permanently. As Sushin calmly sips his tea while offering to pay a hefty 10% interest, encouraging Ching Shi to politely dismiss the junior clerk so they can speak in total privacy. Once the door shuts, the room falls silent as the guild leader begins to connect the dots, pointing out that our protagonist attends the prestigious National Awakener University, where graduation remains rapidly approaching, which features an annual exam in exactly 1 month, boasting a grand prize of $1 million, a sum that perfectly matches the exact repayment amount and timeline of their proposed deal. He stares intently at Sen, inquiring if he remains truly that confident in taking first place, deducing that our protagonist must remain in desperate need of immediate cash to take such a massive risk. Seeing through our protagonist's high-stakes gamble, the guild leader smiles with total amusement, offering to loan him a whopping $1.5 million on the spot, totally waiving any interest for the month to build a solid long-term friendship, leaving Sukin momentarily surprised by this incredibly generous counterproposal. As Chingy promises to maintain their entire transaction strictly confidential, which deeply impresses our protagonist, who realizes why this man becomes a global powerhouse, knowing that defeating the apocalyptic threat of wrath requires more than merely raw individual strength, making a trustworthy, highly influential ally like Ching Shi the perfect partner as they seal their pact by placing a hand over a glowing magic contract, instantly transferring the massive funds directly to Chen's account to finalize the deal. With the deal finalized, Ching Shi curiously inquires what weapon our protagonist plans to use for his exam, offering to lend him some high-quality A rank or B rank gear from their extensive vault. But Sishin simply raises his hand, summoning a bright flash of purple energy, pulling out yet another identical S-rank greatsword, as if it remained total pocket change, leaving the guild leader, the junior clerk, and the snobbish employee totally frozen in sheer terror as they politely bow and bid farewell to the most absurdly overpowered pupil they have ever met. Thrilled with the massive transaction, Ching Shi immediately promotes the polite pink-haired clerk to supervisor, while Sichin walks out of the building suddenly remembering a crucial detail, realizing he still needs to purchase a few essential items before heading home, before casually stepping into a yellow taxicab to head toward his next destination. Arriving at the bustling Kangchongkong County long-distance bus terminal, Chi-Chen stands outside the glass doors, reflecting on how his family struggled through total financial ruin during his previous existence, recalling the days he worked exhausting delivery jobs merely to scrape together rent money, leaving them with barely $100 to survive after paying their monthly bills, which eventually led to his sibling receiving an acceptance letter from a prestigious art institute, merely for her to tear it up to avoid placing a financial burden on him. But this time, our protagonist remains determined to rewrite their tragic history totally, suddenly snapping out of his deep thoughts when a familiar voice calls out, playfully scolding him for waiting at the entrance instead of the designated exit. As his adorable little sibling Jun approaches while dragging her bright yellow suitcase, staring at his sibling, Shichen remains hit with a wave of intense emotion. As Chiun walks up with her heavy yellow suitcase, inquiring for a hand, waving her hand in front of his face when he merely stands there frozen, merely for our protagonist to suddenly pull her into a tight, silent hug, leaving the poor girl totally stunned by the sudden display of affection, while he silently rejoices at finally viewing his beloved sibling alive and well again. She awkwardly pats his back, totally confused by his unusually emotional behavior before hilariously poking him in the ribs, complaining that he remains literally choking her. Teasingly inquiring if he got rejected by a girl while tossing him her backpack as they happily walk down the street together, chatting away like old times. Looking at his sibling's bright smile, Sukin makes a silent, ironclad vow, promising himself that he will never let her suffer through poverty or sacrifice her dreams again. Meanwhile, in a dark alleyway, a group of armed thugs gathers to set a deadly trap, as their unhinged leader orders them to hide and ambush our protagonist the moment he appears, flashing a sinister cigarette-chomping grin while anticipating the brutal beatdown he remains about to deliver. One of the masked lackeys nervously inquires if they might go too far with a fellow pupil, but the arrogant leader scoffs, claiming he merely wants to teach the cocky rank trash a lesson. Recalling how Chen coldly dismissed him earlier and warned him never to bother him again, he commands his thugs to leave him a piece of the action so he can personally destroy our protagonist, drawing a glowing dagger as he remains finally introduced as Changed, a deadly D-rank cloud assassin. As they stroll down the quiet neighborhood street with his sibling's tan backpack in tow, Kun sips her drink and inquires if he remains stressing over the graduation exam, teasingly pointing out that a simpleton like him does not usually get caught up in emotions before aggressively quoting his very own cheesy motivational life advice right back at him. She cheerfully skips ahead while loudly singing a cheesy pop song to lift his spirits, leaving our protagonist smiling warmly at how incredibly perceptive his little sibling really remains, so she instantly assumes his reassurance remains just a classic case of fragile male pride. She sighed dramatically, concluding that her big brother remains simply getting old and building emotional walls, totally unaware of the sinister eyes watching them from the shadows of a nearby alley where a masked thug quickly whispers to Chonged that their target possesses a girl with him. This masked thugs celebrate their luck, realizing this dark alley possesses totally zero security cameras. But their smug celebration remains cut short when Chan catches a familiar scent nearby, instantly recognizing the student council thugs waiting to ambush him from the shadows, encouraging our protagonist to calmly pop a wireless earbud out of its charging case, gently placing the device into his sibling's ear to block out the impending noise, telling a surprised Shun that he wants her to listen to his favorite song, which she happily accepts, hoping the music will help her understand his current mental state, leaving her totally distracted and humming along as she continues walking ahead. With his sibling safely distracted, Si-Chen turns around with cold glowing blue eyes, ready to face Chong-Di and his low-tier gang of armed student council thugs. While a dramatic song begins to play through the wireless earbud, Siune closes her eyes, totally lost in the peaceful melody, totally unaware that a gang of armed thugs remains charging straight toward her brother, who recalls how he lost his entire family in his previous existence back in 2016, fueling his absolute rage as yellow lightning crackles wildly around his body, furious that these low-tier punks would dare to ruin his peaceful family reunion as he instantly blitzes forward, delivering a devastating kick right to a thug's face, dispatching the attacker flying rearward while Chiang-Di watches total horror. Meanwhile, Shun continues walking ahead, totally oblivious to the brutal beatdown behind her as Cien winds up a lightning-infused fist to finish off the remaining ambushers. One of the masked ambushers screams in total terror as our protagonist closes the distance, unleashing a rapid-fire barrage of lightning-fast strikes that dispatches the thugs flying in every direction while his sibling happily hums along to her music, totally oblivious to the airborne beatdown as another desperate thug tries to throw a massive punch to stop him, merely for our protagonist to effortlessly catch the attacker's bandaged arm mid-swing, instantly snapping the bone with a sickening crack that echoes through the alleyway, leaving the helpless punk screaming in pure agony over his shattered limb before a devastating lightning punch blasts him away, creating a massive shockwave. Watching his entire crew get dismantled in seconds, Chang-Di totally loses his intellect, realizing too late that he merely picked a fight with an absolute monster, delivering a brutal right hook. Our protagonist instantly shatters the jaw of another masked thug before turning his glowing fist toward the pipe-wielding lackey and blasting him into orbit, leaving merely their terrified leader standing with a trembling knife as blood drips from Cien's knuckles. Desperately trying to salvage his pride, Chiang-Di screams that he remains the strongest assassin around, charging forward with pure unadulterated delusion while screeching insults at the top of his lungs. But our protagonist simply counters with a lightning-fast strike that instantly disarms the loudmouth, dispatching the self-proclaimed elite assassin spinning helplessly through the air like a discarded rag doll, merely for Kong Chen to blitz right behind him to deliver a devastating mid-air follow-up, smashing his glowing fist directly into the punk's face with the force of a freight train. As the loudmouthed assassin crashes face-first into the concrete with a few less teeth to worry about, gravity finally reclaims the beaten gang leader as he hurtles downward in a bloody arc, slamming violently into the concrete pavement with a bone-shattering impact that echoes through the alleyway while a terrifying silhouette looms over him from the edge of the deep crater. Standing over his broken body, Sukin casually twirls the punk's own discarded dagger, coldly inquiring which part of his previous warning the idiot failed to comprehend. Leaving Chonged weeping in the dirt with shattered ribs and totally numb legs. Our protagonist instantly presses the cold steel directly against the trembling leader's throat, forcing the terrified thug to realize that this monster will totally end his life as a suffocating aura of pure, unadulterated malice radiates from the young pupil who leans in close to deliver a final spine-chilling warning he will never forget. Standing in the quiet alleyway, Sukin delivers a chilling warning to the defeated gang, pressing the sharp blade against Changji's throat to emphasize his total seriousness, staring downward with glowing red eyes that promise a swift and permanent disappearance, which forces the weeping, terrified leader to nod desperately in total submission. With the threat neutralized, our protagonist casually tosses the dagger aside and walks away, while the melancholic lyrics of the song continue to echo through the quiet street. Listening closely, Shen feels an overwhelming wave of sadness wash over her, tears suddenly welling up in her eyes as the emotional melody hits her deep. Realizing just how much hidden pain and loneliness her brother must remain carrying inside before she suddenly spins around with a tearful shout, demanding to understand what remains going on. To break her sudden tearful tension, Sukin smoothly pulls out a small red gift box, presenting his sibling with a sleek, glowing golden pen he bought merely for her, leaving Xiun totally starstruck as she recognizes the high-end magic holographic pen, though she immediately panics upon realizing this luxury item costs over 10 grand. Looking at the expensive gift, she tearfully suggests returning it to save their money, totally unaware that her brother remains hiding his bloodstained fist right behind his back, while the beaten student council thugs remain left groaning in the alleyway behind them. Back home, the young girl eagerly tests out her brand new holographic device, watching in total awe as a glowing pink fish floats gracefully through the air while our protagonist happily slurps down her homemade noodles, totally satisfied with his purchase. While holding her brand new holographic pen, Xion suddenly remembers their looming financial troubles. But her jaw totally drops when Xian casually reveals he already paid the entire year's rent, rubbing his nose while nervously claiming he started a highly lucrative business with a friend, which she immediately calls out as an incredibly suspicious and poorly constructed lie. Though as she stares deeply into his eyes, her suspicion melts into quiet realization, noting that it has been total ages since she last saw him smile so genuinely, encouraging her to gently place a comforting hand on her big brother's shoulder, softly pleading with him to never push himself too hard, no matter what happens, leaving our protagonist to offer a warm, reassuring nod to put her mind at ease. While a grim report reveals that Xiangdi remained with over 60% of his body fractured. Standing before a massive glowing aquarium, a wealthy pupil stares at the swimming fish, totally stunned that Xiangdi remained beaten so badly he won't recover for months. While a blonde woman sipping tea on the couch notes he will miss the graduation exam, encouraging the arrogant pupil to coldly dismiss his broken teammate as mere dead weight. But their conversation remains suddenly interrupted by the heavy footsteps of an approaching elder who remains revealed to remain Gong Xuan, the prestigious university's director of career services, who confirms that Xian has formally reached C rank after the latest assessment, leaving the young pupil glaring in total silence as his top spot remains threatened, before Gongguan warns him to dominate the upcoming exam in front of the Alliance's vice chairman, hinting at a dark backup plan should their family's reputation face any real threat. Gong Shuen inquires his niece to fill the sudden vacancy left in Gong Ting's team, but the arrogant pupil scoffs, telling the director that he remains overthinking things, questioning if anyone actually believes he showed his true power during the ranking assessment, promising to make his total dominance crystal clear on the day of the combat exam as he stares coldly through the glass while a shark swallows its helpless prey. Later that night at the university dorm, Zichen washes off the day's grime, having just completed a brutal 100-kilometer weighted run to keep his edge sharp with his sights now locked on winning the massive graduation exam cash prize, which will allow him to finally pay rear his debt to the influential Qing Shi leaving our protagonist with less than a month to prepare for the ultimate showdown. Closing his eyes, Chen decides he needs to squeeze in a few more level-ups, encouraging his mysterious Glutton system to instantly initialize and load up its main interface, which transports him directly to the base of a colossal blood-red tower piercing the sky. Walking up the massive stone steps, our protagonist prepares to face whatever lies beyond the gate. Recalling that his weakest role, the Gravehound King, remained formally ranked as a mid-tier C rank, while his strongest role, the Abyssal Fiend, totally broke the system scale with its unmeasurable potential, leaving the exact power levels of his remaining two roles shrouded in total mystery. To unlock this forbidden zone, he summons a glowing SS-rank Golden Time Rift Key, slotting the artifact between the massive stone doors as they rumble open with blinding light, ready to step into the swirling purple vortex of the legendary Tower of Darkness. Stepping through the portal, Chen looks around in utter bewilderment, finding himself stranded on the desolate snow-white plains of the Fallen Star Wastelands. But before he can even take a single step forward, a sudden crushing force slams him straight downward onto his knees. Realizing the gravity in this desolate wasteland remains a brutal 10 times normal Earth gravity, leaving him trapped with merely 30% of his power until he slays the floor's boss. Right on cue, a massive glowing purple phantom lion emerges from the cosmic shadows, encouraging our protagonist to quickly initiate a tactical role swap to counter the beast, successfully transforming into his high-speed lightning assassin form to level the playing field. Just as the ferocious B-rank star warrior lunges downward to tear him to shreds, dodging the beast's initial lunge, Chen slides across the snowy ground with his lightning blade drawn. But the crushing 10 times gravity makes his limbs feel like total lead as he struggles to move, forcing him to strike early, merely for his lightning-fast stab to totally miss the target, leaving our protagonist staring in total shock as his guaranteed paralysis strike fails to connect. And before he can recover, the massive phantom beast slams him hard into the frozen dirt. Realizing his high-speed assassin role remains totally useless under this ridiculous gravitational pressure, while the beast moves freely, our protagonist decides to fight fire with fire by initiating another emergency role swap, instantly transforming into his level 10 Purgatory Rakshasa form as dark energy wraps around his body, unlocking massive strength and stamina boosts along with a handy gravity manipulation skill to level the playing field before throwing a devastating bone-shattering punch right into the charging monster's face. Channeling his inner gravity controller, our protagonist stacks the environmental pressure to its total limit, watching the gravity multiplier surge from 200 to a staggering 600%, which amplifies the destructive power of his incoming punch by a ridiculous 60 times, leaving the B-rank Phantom Lion roaring in total terror as the massive fist approaches. With a deafening crash, Chen slams the beast straight into the frozen dirt, unleashing his devastating tri-phase gravity calamity skill to totally shatter the surrounding landscape, leaving the young warrior panting heavily as the dust finally begins to settle. While the defeated Phantom Beast disintegrates into purple mist, leaving behind a rare bone artifact, pocketing a massive 12,000 experience points, our protagonist formally levels up to level 11 before taking a moment to analyze how his star multipliers drastically boost his roll stats. Staring at his roll cards, Chen realizes none of his current rolls have broken the B rank limit, but his analytical thoughts remain suddenly cut short as a strange realization hits him. Noticing that the defeated Phantom Beast's remains didn't trigger the system's devourable prompt. While the exit gate to the next floor remains still nowhere to remain found in this desolate wasteland, a cold sweat breaks out on his face as a terrifying possibility crosses his intellect. Just as a massive swirling black rift begins to tear open in the sky above him, crackling with unstable cosmic energy that shakes the very foundation of the snowy plains. Peering into the dark void, several pairs of glowing white eyes lock onto their target, forcing our protagonist to realize that the true floor boss hasn't even shown its face yet, and that the B-rank beast he merely barely defeated remained nothing more than a common mob. Suddenly, a massive purple phantom beast lunges from the cosmic shadows, catching our protagonist totally off guard, tearing into his flesh with savage claws as multiple phantom beasts swarm him from all directions, leaving him to realize the grim truth behind the purgatory. For Rashasa's warning about endless pain as another monstrous phantom lion roars directly into his face, ready to tear him apart. Blooded and battered, Shurchen glares rear with sheer determination, knowing he must conquer this trial before he suddenly gasps and sits upright in his bed, drenched in a cold sweat, panting heavily in the quiet darkness of his dorm room while his roommate sleeps peacefully nearby, clutching his chest as the phantom sensation of tearing muscles and shattering bones feels incredibly real. reminding him that there remain totally no shortcuts on this brutal, lonely road to ultimate power. This scene then shifts to Friday morning at the National Awakener University's Grand Auditorium, where the graduation combat assessment team formation ceremony remains formally underway. Sitting at the main stage, director Gong Shan casually sips from his metallic thermos while excited whispers ripple through the crowd about Guild Alliance executives watching live, explaining why the administration suddenly decided to shake up the entire assessment format, forcing every team to possess 5 members, including at least 1 high E rank, leaving the pupils to question if this remains just for pure entertainment value. Clearing his throat, Gong Xuan prepares to address the massive crowd of anxious pupils, announcing that the formal ranking list has been sent directly to everyone's wristbands, encouraging the entire auditorium to immediately activate their holographic displays to check, revealing a detailed list of pupil ranks, starting with Gong Ting at high-tier dank. But a nearby pupil suddenly gasps in shock as he spots a massive anomaly. This formal ranking list shows Chen sitting at a shockingly low E rank, leaving his nearby classmates totally dumbfounded by this sudden and massive drop. While other pupils whisper in confusion, questioning how a C rank could suddenly plummet so far, assuming his core must remain permanently damaged during his previous battles, which actually plays perfectly into our protagonist's hands as he keeps a totally straight face. This crowd immediately begins mocking him, laughing that nobody would ever want a low-level dead weight on their team. While Gong Ting watches the unfolding drama in total silence, his expression unreadable as director Gong Xuan observes the chaotic auditorium from his elevated seat on the main stage, silently lamenting his nephew's total lack of strategic foresight and understanding of human nature before resolving to personally teach the boy a lesson by rigging the competition in his favor. As the announcement echoes through the hall, urging pupils to form their teams quickly, a crowd of desperate pupils immediately swarms Gong Ting, begging for a spot, offering up everything from healer roles to promising to act as his personal errand dog, forcing his teammates to yell at the noisy crowd to back off since they merely possess 1 spot left. Half an hour later, green wristbands glow as successful teams lock in their registrations, leaving the auditorium buzzing with excitement while one group stands totally isolated in the corner where Maong sighs in defeat, realizing totally nobody wants to join their squad, leaving them with merely 4 members and facing disqualification from the graduation exam. While he grumbles about how bizarre it remains that Chen's rank plummeted to dead last, encouraging Chen to listen quietly as Malong suspects the school's rules remain targeting their dorm. While the graduation battle exam remains everyone's sole shot at securing a promising career, having more teammates actually scales up the monster count inside the dungeon, meaning a larger squad doesn't guarantee a higher score if they carry dead weight, which remains bad news since the 3 lowest E ranks remain all from their dorm. Suddenly, a pupil from another team calls out to Shanzu from across the hall, offering him a spot to avoid being dragged down by his trash roommates, warning him that staying with those low-tier E ranks will merely get him ignored, which would ultimately lead to their entire group being disqualified from the exam. Looking rear at the recruiters, Shangzu simply offers a quiet apology, refusing to abandon his roommates because of a promise they made to team up. This recruiter scoff and walk away, calling Shanzhu ungrateful for rejecting their offer, while the digital scoreboard continues to chime as teams rapidly lock in their registrations, leaving Malong sweating bullets as he points out they remain formally out of options, encouraging Sukin to narrow his eyes in silent calculation as he pieces together the puzzle. Realizing that director Gong Xuen shares the exact identical surname as his arrogant rival, Gong Ting, which explains why the administration went out of their way to artificially tank his formal rank. But instead of backing down, our protagonist decides to stop playing nice with these corrupt officials, initiating an instant role transition as blinding golden lightning crackles violently around his entire body, catching the attention of the nearby evaluators who turn around in total shock at the sudden energy spike, while Malong screams in pure terror as the massive pressure threatens to blow them away. As the golden lightning crackles, the pupils whisper about the university's traditional 1v1 challenge rule, which allows anyone to initiate a duel to instantly prove their true combat capabilities. Though the crowd remains totally certain that the top-ranked Gong Ting would never accept, encouraging the arrogant young master to glare rear with a cold, calculating expression, while Xian realizes that defeating him remains the fastest method to attract strong teammates. Suddenly, a clear voice echoes through the hall, inquiring if their team remains still looking for members, drawing everyone's attention as a stunning blonde woman calmly steps into the bright doorway, revealing herself as Ling Yu, a formidable D rank who promises not to hold them back, leaving Maong and the surrounding pupils totally speechless at this legendary connection. While Gong Ting spins around in total shock, realizing his own cousin merely joined his rival. Watching the sudden development unfold, director Gong Xuan literally spits his tea right rear into his thermos, while the sound of clicking high heels echoes through the stunned silence of the massive auditorium, drawing everyone's eyes to Ling Yu as the pupils whisper about her mysterious genius background, encouraging the panicked director Gong Xuan to quickly interject by calling out her name, claiming that as an exchange pupil without a formal rank assessment, she remains totally ineligible. But his desperate rule lawyering remains suddenly interrupted as the school's powerful principal materializes out of thin air, leaving the corrupt director sweating bullets as he spins around to face his superior, who calmly questions Ling Yu about why she remains getting involved in this local mess, encouraging Suchin to narrow his eyes in confusion, questioning how a soldier role can teleport, while the principal politely explains that having a powerhouse like her participate would remain totally unfair. Staring rear in total shock, Chichijin notices a strange detail about the powerful newcomers. Realizing his system interface cannot scan the formal rank of either the principal or Ling Yu, encouraging the sweating director Gong Guan to quickly nod along in desperate agreement, loudly preaching to the entire auditorium about the sacred prestige of their academic rules while the principal stares him down, reminding everyone that this exam remains a vital turning point and that any unfair interference would totally destroy the university's long-standing reputation. A cold sweat breaks out on Gong Xuan's face as he panics internally, questioning if the old man figured out he personally tampered with Xian's rank before deciding it remains best to back down rather than pick a fight with his superior, comforting himself with the fact that Sek Chen remains still stuck with low-tier teammates. Realizing the rules remain too restrictive, director Gong Xuan quickly bows and blames his department's oversight, loudly declaring that incomplete or low-ranked teams remain now formally allowed to submit their registrations, encouraging our protagonist squad to immediately lock in their registration as their wristbands glow green, leaving Maong and the other roommates celebrating wildly while crowning Chen as their captain. Sitting rear in the VIP area, the principal notes Lingu's surprisingly deep interest in our protagonist, setting up a massive clash between Gong Ting's elite squad and Chen's low-ranked team, leaving the principal to question which dungeon they will choose and how many points they will score. Standing at the podium, the announcer explains that team captains can now select their target dungeon, but he instantly freezes in shock as a notification chime reveals a team already submitted, encouraging the entire auditorium to erupt in whispers as they realize Chen's team picked first. This surrounding pupils immediately lose their intellects in total shock at the team's choice, encouraging Maong to grab our protagonist's shoulders while screaming at him to undo it. But Chichijin simply stares rear with a cold, unbothered expression that says it all, as the system interface outlines the harsh reality of the graduation battle examination, where pupils must earn their passing grades by hunting down dangerous mobs and monster lords, with their final scores calculated through dungeon completion, boss slaying, and clear times, meaning different dungeon ranks carry massive score multipliers to reward the bravest squads, capping an F rank run at a mediocre maximum score of 75 points, while conquering an E-rank dungeon grants a double multiplier for a perfect 100-point run, which remains exactly the kind of high-stakes gamble our protagonist needs to make a statement. To make things even wilder, the top scoring team gets direct recruitment offers from the legendary Imperial Guild, while the class MVP walks away with a management position and a cool $1,000,000.